Rain had been spitting off and on since morning, and the clouds hung low like they were tired of everything too. Down on Main Street, under the buzzing neon sign of a corner cafe, Mia stood clutching a paper bag that smelled faintly of chicken soup and garlic bread. Her jacket was second-hand denim, frayed at the cuffs, and the duct-tape strap of her backpack dug into her shoulder. She shifted from foot to foot, feeling the coins in her pocket quarters and dimes, barely enough for bus fare, and tried to ignore the faint ache in her stomach. It wasn't for her anyway. The lunch was for Mrs. Carver, an elderly woman in the apartment building across the street who couldn't get out much anymore. Mia always delivered it when she could scrape together the groceries. But today the world was in no hurry to be kind. The door to the cafe swung open. Warmth, coffee steam, the hiss of the espresso machine, she caught it all in a single breath before stepping forward into the street. That's when it happened. The paper bag slipped. She bent fast, almost colliding with someone she hadn't even seen. A man, tall, sharply dressed in a charcoal coat and polished shoes that gleamed under the drizzle. He steadied her automatically, one hand catching her elbow. "Whoa, careful," he said. Voice smooth but with a hint of amusement. I'm sorry," Mia stammered, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. She looked down at the bag, half crushed now, bread peeking out. Perfect. The man crouched too, picking up the container before it hit the gutter. He handed it back, eyes flicking briefly to her worn sneakers, the tired lines under her eyes, then back to her face. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, it's fine." She hugged the bag to her chest like it was the only thing holding her day together. Something about his gaze lingered. Curious. She didn't wait. She muttered thanks and hurried off, boots splashing through shallow puddles. 2 blocks later, she was climbing the dim stairwell of Mrs. Carver's building where the hall light flickered like it was about to give up. Mrs. Carver was grateful as always, fragile hands wrapping around the warm container. Mia smiled but didn't stay. Her phone buzzed, a reminder about the overdue rent notice taped to her door at home. Second warning this month. By the time she stepped back outside, the drizzle had thickened into real rain. She tugged her hood up and headed toward the bus stop, shoulders hunched. That's when she saw him again, the same man leaning casually against a black SUV parked by the curb. He smiled faintly like he'd been expecting her. "You deliver food often?" he asked over the rain. Mia blinked. "Sometimes. Just for people who need it. You work for a service?" "No," she said, shifting the strap of her backpack. "It's not a job. Just something I do." His eyes studied her like he was fitting puzzle pieces together. Then he surprised her. "Come inside. You look frozen. Let me get you a coffee." She hesitated. Everything about him said money, the car, the coat, the confident tilt of his head. And everything about her screamed broke. But the cafe door behind him was warm and bright, and the rain was sliding cold fingers down her back. Inside, he ordered 2 lattes without even asking what she liked. She caught her reflection in the cafe window, wet hair clinging to her cheeks. Thrift store jacket darkened by rain, and wished she didn't look so worn out next to someone like him. "I'm Daniel," he said, offering his hand across the small table. "Mia." They sat in the silence broken only by the clink of cups and low music humming from overhead speakers. Then Daniel leaned back slightly. "You said you don't work for a service. So what do you do?" Mia let out a breath that almost counted as a laugh. "Whatever keeps the lights on. Last week it was cleaning offices at night. This week it's... I don't know yet." He nodded slowly, like he wasn't judging, just listening. "You live nearby?" "Sort of." She didn't mention the peeling apartment with the empty fridge, the one where the heat barely worked and the rent notice curled on the door. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "You know, I own this place." She blinked. "The cafe?" "And 3 others," he said, watching her reaction. But I didn't ask you in for business. You just looked like you could use a warm cup. Something in Mia's chest tightened. Kindness always felt heavier when you hadn't expected it. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed again, this time a text from her landlord. Rent by Friday or you're out. Her hands trembled as she read it. She didn't notice Daniel watching her carefully now. Like he could see cracks forming. Mia shoved the phone back into her pocket before Daniel could read the screen. But she knew the look on her face had given her away. He didn't ask right away, though. Just sat there swirling what was left of his latte, watching the rain streak down the window like he had all the time in the world. You look like somebody just slammed a door on your plans, he said finally. It's nothing, she muttered, standing too quickly, fumbling with her backpack strap like she might leave. But Daniel stood too, blocking her retreat with nothing more than his calm presence. Sit, please. His voice was low, steady. At least finish the coffee. You look like you haven't eaten in 2 days. Her lips pressed together. He wasn't wrong. The fridge at home held half a jar of peanut butter, 2 eggs, and a flickering light bulb that barely worked. The heat in the apartment clanked loudly when it bothered to come on at all. Her shoes had holes near the toes, stuffed with newspaper on bad days. Reluctantly, she sat. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on the table. I'm not trying to pry, but you seem like someone carrying too much weight alone. Mia stared at the chipped edge of her cup. It doesn't matter, I just have to figure things out. Maybe I can help. Her head snapped up. People didn't just say that. Not in real life. Why? He smiled faintly. Maybe I've been where you are. Maybe I remember what it's like to have nothing. She almost laughed. This man in his perfect coat, with his polished shoes and easy confidence, he'd never stood counting coins at a bus stop, never patched the same backpack strap 3 times with duct tape. Surely not. But something in his eyes made her pause. Read-hook. Because right then, the cafe door swung open and a gust of wind brought in a teenage boy dripping wet, shaking out his hoodie. He looked around, spotted Mia, and hurried over. Mom, the landlord came again, he blurted, voice cracking slightly. He said Friday's the last chance. Mia closed her eyes briefly. This was Tyler, her son. 14, gangly, wearing sneakers so worn the laces barely held. He'd run all the way here in the rain for this. Daniel looked between them, realization dawning. Your kid? Mia nodded stiffly. Tyler, this is Daniel. Tyler gave the man a quick nod before turning back to his mother. He was serious this time. I think he means it. Daniel didn't say anything right away. Then he reached into his coat, pulled out a small card, and slid it across the table toward Mia. I need someone at the cafe, he said. Part-time. Decent pay. Flexible hours. If you want it, it's yours. Mia stared at the card like it was some kind of trick. I don't have experience, she murmured. Doesn't matter. You look like you show up. That's more than half the battle. Her throat tightened. Showing up, she always did that. For Tyler, for Mrs. Carver, for everyone except herself. But pride was a stubborn thing. I can't take charity, she said softly. It's not charity, Daniel said. It's a job. And maybe an overdue bit of good luck. Tyler looked between them, hope flickering across his tired face. Mom, maybe we should. Mia swallowed hard. When do I start? Daniel's smile was warm, but not pitying. Tomorrow. 6 a.m. if you can handle mornings. She nodded, almost dizzy with relief. But the week ahead wasn't easy. She worked before dawn, Tyler walking her to the bus stop sometimes when the streets were still slick with night rain. The pay wasn't much at first, but enough to hold off the landlord. Enough to buy real groceries, eggs, bread, even a little fruit. Daniel checked in sometimes, stopping by with that same calm smile, asking how things were going. He didn't hover. He just seemed to notice everything. The way Tyler's sneakers were falling apart. How Mia's coat barely kept out the cold. One evening, near closing time, he handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Advance on your pay. Thought maybe you could use it." Inside was enough to clear the overdue rent entirely. Mia felt her eyes sting. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel shrugged lightly. "Because someone once did it for me. And it changed everything." She looked at him then, really looked at the man who had once been hungry, maybe just like her. And for the first time in months, hope felt like something real, something solid enough to hold. That night, Tyler grinned as they filled the fridge properly for the first time in months. Mia watched him, heart aching with relief, and thought about the way life could turn on the smallest kindness. Maybe one act really could reroute a life, and maybe someday she would do the same for someone else.